Today I want to talk about fear. Okay, I want to talk about fear. And I thought this was an important topic to discuss because it is one of the things that unites us. We all have fears of something, whether it's a spider or death, right? There's tons of fear, and we can all be kind of universally united through fear. I also think it's something that is not talked about, and because of that, I think we are kind of afraid of fear. You know what I mean? Like, we are just afraid of being afraid. We're afraid of feeling the actual feeling of fear, which is kind of like inception here. But I think we need to get some power back to not be so fearful, to not be so cautious, to not be so kind of baseline in life, to actually take some risks or make big changes. Because you have to do things that you're afraid of in life if you want to make a change. And I think talking about fear is a good place to start. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about, what am I afraid of? And you can go as macro or as micro as you want with this. What are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? Big, small. Are you afraid of heights? Are you afraid of divorce? Like all of the things. Think really quickly. There's always a couple on the top of our minds. Now, next thing I want to ask you, are you afraid right now? Are you going through something where you can like palpate that fear occasionally or often? Are you actually afraid of something, either a phase in your life right now you're fearful of, a decision you have to make, something that's out of your control? Are you in a phase of fear right now? Okay, and some of you will be yes, some of you will be no. Now, I have had many coaches and many mentors over the years, and a common theme that they would always talk about, like mindset wise and leveling up with your mind, is fear. So I've heard a lot of different talks about fear, and I think they're important. I think they're practical. I think they're tactical, but I never really resonated with, tackle fear and face fear head on. It never like spoke to me because I never considered myself to be somebody fearful or somebody afraid of things. I always kind of considered myself to be a realist. I can be pretty doubtful at times. I can be pretty weary of things at times. But what I've come to realize lately, and actually quite recently, is that being doubtful and being weary is the exact same thing as being afraid. It's just a lesser version. We've given a different wrapping to not deal with fear, because the fear of fear is real. Feeling fear is not fun. We're afraid of just feeling fear, yet alone not even talking about the actual fear itself. So I never really resonated with these talks about facing your fears before. I don't know if you can relate to that, whether you relate or resonate or don't resonate, but I never used to before, until recently I realized I am afraid. I have lots of fears. I am afraid of success. I am afraid of making a mistake in public. I have a lot of fears, and I thought I never did. I thought I was just somebody who was a realist, who could tell it how it is, who was just cautious and doubtful and weary because I knew the right decisions. But now I'm realizing I actually do have these fears, and I actually am acting or not acting because of fears. And it is, let me tell you, it's kind of freeing to think I am worse off is actually more freeing. Now I actually understand why I'm the way that I am, why that I do the things that I do, or why am I slowing down in certain areas, or why am I plateauing in certain areas, whether it's weight loss and health, whether it's your marriage, whether it's your career, your relationship with your kids. Why am I slowing down in that area? And it can almost always be brought to being afraid of something. It is almost always because of that. You are afraid of this happening. You're afraid of this not happening. You're afraid of something. It is so intense. And until I had this realization, I didn't realize how intensely it guided my actions, right? I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to be in the public eye, or if I'm successful, will people look at me different, or blah, 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 fill in the blanks, right? So there's this really cool quote, and it's, fear is false evidence appearing real. False evidence appearing real. F-E-A-R. That is what fear is. And I strongly agree with that. I wouldn't say necessarily that it's false evidence. I would say that it's a distorted reality. Fear really distorts your reality into creating something that it's not. Because where does fear come from, ladies? Fear comes from either comparing it to what's happened in the past, so now we're afraid and living in the past, or it comes from our fear of what potentially might happen in the future that's unknown. So now we're fearing the unknown of the future. And this fear makes us so overwhelming with all these different options that we forget to be in the present with the evidence that we have right here, right now, and the actual reality we have here, right now. So what I would say, ladies, if you are in a phase of fear, if you're going through something that is making you afraid, or there's a big decision that you need to make where you are really anxious about it, you're weary about a certain outcome, you're somebody maybe who's in the middle of deciding to take a risk or not, whether you are afraid of falling off your journey and going back to where you started, whether you're afraid of never reaching my goal, like whatever these fears, and if you are somebody who's feeling it more intensely lately, what I would say is this: you have to recognize your fear. You have to realize that they are fears. Sometimes we try to trick ourselves that they're not. And then we need to stop focusing on it. We need to realize it, and then we need to stop focusing on our fear, because the people who are where you want to be, who have the habits you want to have, who have accomplished the things that you haven't yet, who have the things that you'd like to have, these people do not have less fear than you. They do not. What they do have is more courage. So forget about the fear, acknowledge it, move on from it, and focus on the courage. Can we not agree that it's courage that makes a woman strong? That it's courage to take risks, to make a change is how you're going to lose the weight? Courage, not fear. Yet we based our ultimate decisions, the biggest decisions in our life, off of fear of something happening. When we always look at what could go wrong and we are blind to what can go right. And the difference between those two things is courage. So it's not about decreasing your fear, it's about increasing your courage. And by default, by increasing your courage, your fear actually decreases anyway. So if this is resonating with you and you feel like you're in this phase of fear in your life, the season of unknown, of unease, of anxiety, if that's where you are right now, you acknowledge it, you don't focus on that anymore, because that's going to build the problem up to more than it needs to be. You focus on, where can I build my courage? And courage, all courage is how you keep going. It is what you do even though you are fear. It is acting, still carrying your fear. It is acting, still carrying your fear. If you want to be more courageous, if you want to be more outgoing, if you want to not be pulled down or so affected by your negative thoughts and how we overthink, then it's stop harping on all the negative, stop harping on that you are afraid, stop labeling it all the time, accept it once. And now, ladies, your challenge is, how can I become more courageous? Doesn't that change how you would make a decision? Instead of a fear, scarcity, urgent mindset, now you're more courageous. Okay, by making this decision, am I going to come on the other side a stronger person? Instead of avoiding this situation, instead of trying to not pay attention to the situation and hope it goes away anyway. So now we're at a place where we're lacking courage, not over-enveloped in fear, we're just lacking courage. And that is how you can overcome yourself. And that is how you can put your negative self-talk to bed as well. So you have to work on courage by acting in fear anyway. If you have the fear, there must be something you can do to build up your courage. Because the most courageous people out there, the people who are strong, that take risks, those courageous people, they once didn't think they can do it. At one point, they didn't have courage, but they took a courageless step to get towards it. So if you want to be this badass woman who's sure of herself, who's confident with her place in the world, and is steadfast no matter how much chaos happens around you, whether created by you or created by something or created by someone. If you want to be steadfast in who you are, in your demeanor, in your mental endurance, you have to take one step that you don't know how it will end. And that is how you build the courage to know that you can overcome anything. You can survive on the other side. And I think this is so important for weight loss, because no matter where you are in your journey, whether you've barely started, you're struggling, you're successful, no matter where you are in your weight loss journey right now, you have been in a low place. Whether you're in it or you weren't, you have been in a low place. And you would have gotten out of that low place faster, or that low wouldn't have gotten so low if you were able to tap into some courage a little bit sooner, just a little bit more. If we stopped focusing on the fear and realized it's a lack of courage, not an overabundance of fear that's holding you back. Fear is normal, and fear is never going to go away. Being afraid is part of being human. It was given to us because it keeps us safe. That's the biological function of fear. But I think the divine function of fear, it is a beacon that tells us we are onto something. That is why fear was given to us. Look at it as this divine messenger. I'm uncomfortable, I'm scared, I'm pulling away, I'm not thinking about it. This is the divine telling you, oh, we hit a sore spot. Keep digging. Keep digging. Where are your sore spots, ladies? Where are your sore spots? Think about that. And put some attention there. That is how you build courage. Do those things that make you uncomfortable. Really and truly. Because fear, it doesn't have to shut you down. It can wake you up. Fear doesn't have to shut you down. It doesn't have to be fight or flight. We are smarter than that. We are more logical than that. We are more faithful than that. It doesn't have to shut you down. Fear can be a wake-up call. Where are you missing your wake-up call, ladies? Isn't that exciting? Somewhere in your life right now, where that doubt or that cautiousness or the anxiety is starting from, or full-blown fear is starting from, that could be your wake-up call. That should be a red alarm saying that's where we have to focus. And let's not waste our time trying to decrease our fear. The only way we get rid of our fears is by trying something anyway. And if it works, now you've built up your courage by evidence and proof. And if it doesn't work, you've still learned a lesson. You've still grown. You either learn a lesson or you grow. That's it. And both of them will take you in the right direction, whether or not the overall thing worked out. Because life is a balance of fear and overcoming it. That is one of my favorite quotes regarding fear. Life is a balance of fear and overcoming it. Maybe, just maybe, that's all this life is about. Your mind, your body is going to want to keep you safe. But safe is not exciting. Safe is not exceptional. Safe, there has no room for change. Safe is not the best version of you. You staying safe, you'll never meet the woman you want to become. So maybe life is just all about balancing the fear you feel with facing it. How simple is that? How comforting is that? What if I told you your suffering was your purpose? Your trauma is your purpose. How nuts is that? That's almost like I have goosebumps. That's almost too much to handle. What if that is your purpose? To come out the other side of it stronger, not scratch free, not ding free. You know, you're going to come out of it with some bruises and some rough things. That's for sure. But what if it's just about balancing your fear and overcoming it? What if we just simplified that to life? The suffering would become a little bit more bearable, or at least make a little bit more sense. At least a little bit. And I think we all need to take that and remember that and take it into our journeys. Is fear been your biggest motivator? Has fear been the biggest guiding light in your life? Are you a cynic? Do you consider yourself a realist? Are you really tough on yourself? Do you have regrets in your life? Those are all things that usually stem from a place of fear, not a place of abundance, not a place of what could happen instead of what I don't want to happen. It's crazy when you look at it like that. And you're missing out. You're missing out on so much awesome ways to measure your progress. Awesome ways to measure your progress, besides just the number on the scale. There's so much beautiful stuff happening around you. And there's so much more beautiful stuff that you can create. You can create abundance. You can create an entirely new life any day that you want. I do not care how old you are. There's no such thing as too late. There's no such thing as too late. Doesn't matter what you've been through, where you think you're going. You can always start fresh. You can always decide to try and switch from decreasing your fear to increasing your courage. And it takes a whole lot of courage to be courageous, which if we don't have, it's going to be really tough. It's going to feel unnatural. It's going to feel uncomfortable. You're going to try and convince yourself that it's not the way. It shouldn't be this hard. Yes, it should be this hard. You will not transform into somebody you are so proud of if it is not this hard. It has to be this hard. You have to go through hard things. You have to learn to balance fear and overcoming it. You have to face the fire-breathing dragon, sometimes without any armor. That is terrifying. No one told you that you had to do that, and nobody's prepared you for that. But I'm telling you, that's what life is about. And you can make the switch anytime you want. And it's a hell of a lot easier when you have a support group. When you can talk about it. When you can say, oh my God, I faced a fire-breathing dragon today. I didn't think I would do it. I didn't think I would follow through with it. I didn't think I was strong enough to handle it. I didn't think I could figure out how to cope with all of it that happened. And I didn't think that I would be happy that it happened after all of it had passed. I can tell you everything that's happened in my life that I thought was an inconvenience, that I thought was a trauma, that I thought that I didn't understand and wish didn't happen. I can look back now and realize that it gave me something. It taught me something. It grew me somehow, some lesson. And that's a personal choice. It's a personal choice. It's a very tough choice. I want to make that very clear. It's a very tough thing to do, to stop being a victim of your own fear. I always talk about being in the victim mentality, right? Blaming others, making excuses. But I usually only talk about that in terms of weight loss, right? My hypothyroidism, my age, my diabetes is making it harder for me to lose weight. And even if those things are true, even if the excuses and the blaming are true, at the end of the day, what use does it do putting the power in someone or thing's hand? What use does it do? Be like the knight. Be a knight. Be noble. Be honorable. Be courageous. Be the type of person that someone looks at and they look up to you and they're like, damn, how does she do it? when you're really just one step ahead, but it looks like you're 100 steps ahead, because the difference between fear and courage, it's a huge leap, but it's only one leap. And not only is it one leap, it's going to make you so strong, you can make those leaps again and again and again with a little bit more ease or a little bit more comfort. Discomfort is something that we respond very strongly to. And that is, again, that is another divine signal. It's divine. Your fear's not bad. Your fear's not the devil. Your negative self-talk is not the devil working its way in. It is a divine signal telling you this is where we need to focus. You're focusing on the negative. You're focusing on what you don't have. You're focusing on what you don't want to happen, what you're afraid of. Let's take our blinders off and see what we're really capable of just by living life with the goal of being more courageous. What if tomorrow you woke up and just acted as if life was only about balancing fear and overcoming it? Have you been doing your balancing act? Has it just been fear, fear, fear? Overcome, fear, fear, fear. Have you spent time on the other side of the equation? That's what I want you to ask yourself.